right, so we're gonna go over this warm up. There was a worksheet up there, so if you haven't grabbed it, you can grab it in a second. We're just gonna talk quickly about reference angles today. And then, that's really it. So nothing too crazy, but sorry, we gotta keep going even though more than half of our classes have to. So the first thing we need to do is look at our kind of, we're referencing B. And for sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So from B, I know opposite, but I don't know hypotenuse, so I'm gonna grab my calculator and just use Pythagorean theorem. Remember, you can label your sides. If this is angle A, this is side A. Angle B is side B, so I need side C. So I'm just gonna do A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I'm grabbing my calculator, it's way too early to do that in my head here. 3 squared plus 8 squared is 73. So I take the square root. I can't simplify that, so I'm just gonna kind of leave that. And then plug in my values over here. So we said from angle B, opposite is 8, hypotenuse is the square root of 73. And then we're gonna rationalize the denominator. And that would be your final. So can you do a quick check of that? Last week, so I'm killing myself here to help you guys. So for your assignment, I also put a little video. Did anyone watch that and did you think it was helpful?
Oh, it was very helpful, Mr. Sherman.
It was? Oh, okay.
No, I'm being serious.
No, okay, thank you. So I'm trying, I get it, with all these breaks, it's very hard to remember stuff, so I will try to kind of do those quick little videos to remind you of what you're doing. I'm really feeling nice lately, I don't know what's gotten into me.
Oh, you're so nice.
I know, aren't I? The other thing I'm going to let you do is if you do your work in class, I'll just do a quick check before we leave. I will give you a copy of my notes.
Oh my god.
Yeah, exactly. So
Jeez.
I'm putting in extra effort and trying to make it as easy as possible for you. So.
Geez, Santa came early this year, eh?
If you do not have that worksheet, can you grab it? Because we're going to do our notes on that today. I'm just going to get mine up to show it to you.
You got a worksheet? Oh, perfect.
She has pants on. Today we're going to talk about reference angles.
I know, I found it. It was in between my notebooks.
Nice.
Did anyone have a question with that warm-up one? Okay, perfect.
It's pretty easy, you know, Mr. Sherman.
Once you know what's going on, it's really just kind of the same process every time.
It's a thought. That matters.
Sorry, let me just get mine up. So today we're going to talk about reference angles. Last week we talked quickly about 30, 60, 90, and 45, 45, 90 triangles, but unfortunately not everything's in the first quadrant, so we'll talk about these reference angles and what the heck they mean. So a reference angle, we have a few steps. One, we like angles between 0 and 360. Hopefully at this point we can kind of visualize where they are. But if angles are really big, if they're above 360, or if they're small, like they're a negative, sometimes it's hard to visualize them. So if we see something that's not between 0 and 360, we're going to find a coterminal. We had done that before, but just as a reminder, and we'll do a few examples, we'll add or subtract 360 to get in that range.
Oh, that's easy.
Then we're going to use this, we're going to fill in this chart quickly, and I'll show you how to find a reference angle. But just to note, a reference angle is always positive and is always between 0 and 90. So let's fill in the little chart ski first, and I'll show you how to do that. So here we're in quadrant 1. Those are our angles between 0 and 90. And if I say, what's the reference angle, you don't really have to do anything. Because we said we want the reference angle between 0 and 90 and for it to be positive. So the reference angle I'm just going to say is theta. Whatever the angle is the reference angle. So in quadrant 1, you're feeling pretty good. You don't have to do too much work. Unfortunately, the other quadrants, you do have to do a little work. So in quadrant 2, that's anything between 90 and 180. But we said we want our angle to be between 0 and 90, so that's going to be a little bit too big. So the reference angle is going to be 180 minus theta, so minus your angle. Then we got quad 3. That's anything between 180 to 270. So to find a reference angle, which we want it to be between 0 and 90, that's going to be theta minus 180. So you can see kind of the same idea, just flips it. And last but not least, our fourth quadrant. And I'll leave this up for a second too. Sometimes I talk faster than we can write, I feel ya. So that's anything between 270 and 360. And to find my reference angle, what's it gonna be? 360 minus, 360 minus theta. So I'll leave that up for a second because I know sometimes it takes a second to copy stuff. You wanna make sure you got it. We'll just start to fill it out, so I'll leave it up for a minute so you can get it, okay? I'll leave that up for another minute period of money, just because you need it for the next thing, so I don't want to erase it without you knowing what's going on.
Cool. Yeah, I filled it all up.
Good job, I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And did you fill it up?
Wow, what students today?
I know.
I'm just highly impressed by you guys. Monday morning. Really. This is the only day this week you have to come into school?
I know.
What a life.
I know, right?
Anyway.
Oh, you have to come in every day.
I do have to come in every day because tomorrow I have conferences.
So
So every 10 minutes I do a separate Google Meet.
sucks to suck, huh?
And then Wednesday I'm here. And then we have conferences at night.
What? That's stay till nighttime?
I can do them from my house, so I'm going to try to
It's different.
lock myself in my room so my kids aren't like screaming.
Just put yourself on mute.
It's a conference, like I have to talk to the parents.
Oh, student teacher conferences.
Yeah, like
That's what
parent-teacher conferences.
Oh, I
So
thought
it's
it
like
was
just
like
me and one parent, just like chatting. That would be kind of awkward.
Imagine put yourself on mute. Hi. I know. Oh, Mr. Sherman, I had someone come to my job, right? Like,
Where do you work?
CN Smith Farm. I quit, but like,
Oh, yeah.
how? Huh?
You didn't bring me any donuts?
No, so I just totally forgot. Mrs. Leveridge visited me.
I know, I meant to go and I just never went. Because by the time I was going to go, there was going to be like no apples.
No, yeah, that's good. But so like, someone came in like deaf, and like, I had to do sign language. I didn't know anything.
Okay,
So
you like, yeah.
So she was like, Ford. I was like, for what? And then she was like, I was like, Apple. So I went that. And then I had my mask on. So I had to like put it down. I was like, Apple? She goes, no. I'm like, donut. So I pointed to donut. She's like, yeah.
Oh.
See, I'm a pretty good sign language.
Well, I don't know if that's actually counts as knowing sign language.
I don't
Good job for adjusting.
I don't know. I
Helping someone.
I bet I'd be a better sign.
It must be very hard for people that can't hear when they can't see people's mouths.
Imagine drive-through. Sorry.
That's okay.
Wait. But sure, what happens if a deaf person goes to a drive-through? Like, then what? Like,
I don't think they would.
You good? Okay.
yeah, but like
That
how
wouldn't help anyone singing.
exactly. They can't breathe.
A lot of times there are like certain buttons you can push if you're,
Oh really?
yeah. Like that.
You just connect your card to Siri. Hi, I am there.
Okay. So, let's see what the heck this means and what the heck we do. So, when I'm looking at number one, the first thing you do is just figure out what quadrant it is. So what I'm gonna do is just make a quick note to myself, just so I remember. So if I'm thinking about 98 degrees, and we just did a quick little chart up there, that would be in quadrant 2. Okay, so knowing where it is the most important part, because then you'll know what to do with it. In quadrant 2, I look to find the reference angle. It's 180 minus my angle, so I write it as theta, but because it changes. So in this case, I'm gonna do 180 minus 98, and my reference angle would be 82. Now, you're not gonna have to do this, but I'm just gonna show you what the heck that means, because as of right now, we don't even know. If I were to sketch the angle 92 degrees, I'd be like right here, back from sketching back in the day. So you don't even need to draw this, I'm showing you. What we're gonna start doing after this is from this, we make a triangle like that. Basically what we're finding is that inside angle. So when I say the reference angle, but when I draw the angle, that gives me that line. But then when I do the actual triangle, I need a different angle in here. So that's what that is, basically. So we'll do that later, but just so you have an idea of what the heck we're solving for, and that's why we do it, because we will do some stuff with triangles in the future. But we're taking it slow, we're not gonna put ourselves here. So, number 2, first thing you do, where is it? 212 is in quadrant 3, because it's between 180 and 270. Then I just look, how do I find a reference angle in quadrant 3? I'm going to do my angle minus 180. And then I just do that math out. The math is actually kind of quick. That would come out to 32 degrees. Any problems so far? Okay. So let me show you one with a negative. Let me show you one that's bigger than 360, just so we know what to do, and then we'll try a few and just see how we're feeling. So when I get to number 3, I see a negative. Don't be like, oh, 135, that's between 90 and 180. No, it's not, because it's negative. So what I need to do for this one is I need to find a coterminal angle. To find a coterminal, I take my angle. I'm either going to add or subtract 360. Since that's a negative, we're going to add 360. And that's going to give me my coterminal. In this case, it comes out to 225. Okay. Once I find the coterminal, that's the angle I'm going to now use to kind of plug into my little formula. So I think to myself, where is 225? Because I can visualize that hopefully. 225 is in quadrant 3. So I remind myself where it is first. I go back up and kind of look and say, what do I do in quadrant 3? I'm going to do the angle. Remember, I'm using the coterminal now. I'm not using the original. I'm going to subtract 180. And then that's going to give me my angle. In this case, it would be 45. So if you have something's not between 0 and 360, you have to kind of add that step of finding the coterminal. And then once you have that, that's what you use. So don't go back to the original, you use the coterminal. So let's look at one that's too big. When I look at number 4, I say, I don't know where 750 is, somewhere around, so I'm going to find a coterminal. So what I'm going to do, since it's too large, I'm going to subtract 360. But what's going to happen when I do 750 minus 360? I get 390. That's still not in the range that I want. I want it to be between 0 and 360. You can keep adding and subtracting as 360 as many times as you need. So I usually just do it right in my calculator. So I would just grab my calculator, do 750, and then if I have to do it a few times, just subtract 360 until you get in between that range of 0 and 360. So I'm going to use the coterminal of 30. So this is now what I'm going to be using. That's quadrant 1, right?
Yeah.
Quadrant 1, I don't need to do anything. So that coterminal is my reference angle. So we saw ones where you could just kind of like, okay, where are they? Plug them in. We saw ones where we were finding coterminals. As of this moment, are there any questions on the steps we've been doing? Yes.
Do we have to put like quad 2, quad 1?
That's just to remind you.
Okay.
So for now, I just know it's easy to forget stuff. So hopefully if you look back at your notes, it was more just to remind you, find the quadrant first and then do it. But you don't have to write it in an answer. I'm just trying to do things to remind you as you go through the week. Why don't you try 5 and 6? We'll try those two because those two you have to find coterminals. And then we'll see if there's any other ones that maybe we have questions on. Try a few more and then we might do one on the back. That's about it.
I'm tired, but like energetic at the same time.
Did you get an extra hour of sleep this weekend?
No.
Me neither.
I was driving. Adam, did you get a good night's sleep?
You have to fall back, you get the extra hour.
Okay, so that's why it got so dark out last night. Like,
Yeah, and I was light this morning, like when I was driving this morning, it was light, usually it's pitch black. So.
Wait, is that how it's supposed to work though?
Yes.
I hate when it's light out like in the morning. I like when it's dark.
Rather be light.
Well, I'd rather have it be a light later too.
I don't know.
Alright, this one you would have to find a coterminal. Please do not see negative 60 and just be like, oh, it's just like normal 60. It's not, so please don't do that. So I'm gonna take negative 60 and add 360 to get my coterminal of 300. So now this is the angle I'm gonna use to plug in. That is in quadrant 4, so that's just a reminder to myself, what the heck am I using if I go back and look. So I'm gonna do 360 minus a 300, and my reference angle is 60. Fancy. And then the same thing for 6, you have to find a coterminal first. Since it's greater than 360, I'm going to take that angle and subtract 360. That's gonna give me a reference of 120. Okay, so now this is the angle I'm gonna use to kind of do the rest of my work. 120 is in quadrant 2. In quadrant 2, I'm going to do 180 minus my angle. And my reference angle would also be 60. So you can see that you can kind of have just random angles, 98 to 12, whatever. What you're gonna start noticing is not everyone, but a lot of them, the reference angles are gonna be either 45, 30, or 60, because it's gonna have to do a special right triangle. Which we learned about a little bit last week, and then we're gonna kind of build more on. Maybe we'll do one problem today. So as of this moment, are there any questions on those first 6? Now here's my question, because I don't care what order we do things in. We have a few more to try, so just a few practice, because people said they like to try a few in class to make sure you're good. Would you rather do those now? And then we're gonna do one problem on the back in a little bit. Or would you rather do the one problem now and then just have the end of class to finish?
Let's say we do one problem now, Mr. Sherman.
Just like get all the new stuff over with and then you can have a little practice time. Works for me. So in a few minutes, we'll go back. Maybe that gives us a good little break to see like in 10 minutes, do I know what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Because if you don't know what you're doing in 10 minutes, then
I believe you, Mr. Sherman.
Life is gonna be tough. All right, so can you flip over? We're just gonna do the example on the back. And then we'll leave the other stuff.
Oh my gosh. Please tell me you don't have to fill out all
You
6.
do. It's not bad, it's not. It's gonna be okay. And I'm sorry, because I'm pretty sure, is this the one? Oh, no, there's one of the other problems. My formatting it all messed up. Okay. So here's how we actually just relate this to what the heck we were just doing. I'm saying, I'm just giving you the angle 225. The first thing it's asking me is what's the reference angle? Ooh, I can do that because we just did it on the front, right? 225 is in quadrant 3.
Yep, and then you do 225 minus 180.
Love it. 225 minus 180, and that would give me the angle of 45.
Yep.
Okay. So we're gonna do a quick sketch, kind of like I did over here. I'm like, what the heck am I doing? So what does that mean? So sketch 225. So if I start here, that's 90. That's 180. 225 is about right there. From that, you just kind of pick a point over here. It doesn't have to be anywhere exact. But what you're going to do is you're going to just pick a point and you're just going to draw a nice line up to the x-axis to make a right angle. So now we have a beautiful little triangle. This reference angle, this 45, is going to go in this like kind of inside angle is 45. So that's what the reference angle means. Technically, this entire angle is 225, but I just want the angle that's in the triangle, and that's what my reference angle is.
We'll go down.
So, hey, we know a 45, 45, 90. And if you don't know it, you could always look back at your notes. But I'll remind you of the sides. The sides are 1 and 1, and the hypotenuse is square root of 2. The only thing you do have to do here is you have to think about your direction. Is it positive or negative? So since this is to the left, that's a negative direction. And since that's down, that's a negative direction as well. The hypotenuse is always positive. So there's a little bit of setup. Hopefully it's going to look familiar. And obviously we're going to do way more examples of these. But I'm just showing you where we use these reference angles. So now we use the reference angle, which is right here. And that's where we're going to do our opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse from. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse from our reference angle. Opposite is -1. Hypotenuse is square root of 2. We'll just have to do a quick little simplifying of that, and we will get negative root 2 over 2. You're going to see the work on this one. A lot of them are the same. That's why all sections should be to that. Okay, so cosine, that's adjacent over hypotenuse. So we're kind of bringing in a lot of stuff that we've learned in the past as well. So remember, we're always using this as our reference, kind of where we're doing our opposite and adjacent from. Adjacent is -1. Hypotenuse is square root of 2. See how it's the same exact work as the first one? So I'm just going to rewrite the answer. It's negative root 2 over 2. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. From this angle, opposite is -1, adjacent is -1. So that would just come out to be 1. Then I don't know if it's necessarily nice, but when you do all 6, these ones, remember you just flip. So this is hypotenuse over opposite. So I don't even really go back to the triangle to tell you the truth. I just look at what this was and I flip it. So that would be square root of 2 over -1. So I'm just going to write that as negative square root of 2. So I just do the same thing for the other ones. That's hypotenuse over adjacent. So once again, I just take what that original one was and I flip it. That would just also be negative square root of 2. And then this one is adjacent over opposite. So you just flip this, it ends up being the same exact thing. And that will come out to be 1. So obviously as we move forward, we're not always going to do all 6. But I was just trying to give you an idea of what was happening. Okay, we're going to be given this angle. We want to find a reference angle. So basically we can set up a nice little picture over there. Basically what's gonna happen is your reference angle is always gonna be 45, 30, or 60, so you don't have a lot of options, which is good. We're gonna fill in our sides using our notes from last week, but I can remind you of that stuff as we go. And then you're just doing your opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse like normal, like we were doing last week. So in general, that's that, but we'll do more of that next week. So we'll just look at the one, just so you kind of see when the heck we use it. But don't worry too much about that stuff for now. You'll be seeing that more next week when we actually have time to kind of practice with our. Hold on a second.
Uh-oh.
No, you guys have Tuesday off this week, and next week you have Wednesday off. What a life you lead. I feel like you guys just keep having these like random days off.
Oh wait, when's Thanksgiving?
And then, so then after that, there's a one full week. And then the week after is Thanksgiving.
Wait, and for Thanksgiving, Monday and Tuesday, people have school, and Thursday and Friday now.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So it kind of works out because you guys didn't have school Columbus Day, you don't have school tomorrow, so that was 2 days.
Yeah.
So then Thanksgiving, they don't have it 2 days. Yeah. All right, so we still have about, I don't know, a little over 10 minutes. So why don't you just flip to the back, try a few more of those reference angle
Of course, this is.
thingy-mabobbers.